Hey, what's up everybody? This is Jimmy, the singing real estate agent, coming to you from beautiful, sunny Albuquerque, New Mexico. Filming indoors today because quite frankly, it's a little bit hot outside. We're at about 97 degrees today. Hopefully today is the last day of this pretty intense heat for us, and then we'll see things start to cool down. But let me tell you what's not cooling down, the market. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. I'm really excited to bring you the very first market update. So remember, our market updates are always looking at past data. We're looking at historical. So this one's looking at the information that we have from July of 2024 for the greater Albuquerque area. You know, one of the most common questions I get asked by complete strangers as soon as they find out that I'm a real estate agent is, so how's the market? Well, this video is exactly in response to that. And I hope to answer the majority of your questions about how is the market? And here's a key point that I really want to point out to you and make sure that you understand. You know, there are a ton of fantastic real estate experts all over the country, and they specialize in their specific market. And when we look at a lot of data that's out there and available by a lot of these big name companies, you know, pretty much any online company where you can go and look at real estate properties all over the US, I won't name them all, but I think you know what I'm talking about. When we look at these companies, they're focusing their data and they're trying to build a product that's kind of just a representation of the entire country and not any specific specialized market. That's not what I'm doing. I am an expert for right here in the greater Albuquerque area of New Mexico. So I specialize in this market. Now I try to keep abreast and up to date on kind of what's going on around the country, because that definitely impacts our market, especially people that are moving from out of state or people that are looking to move out of New Mexico. But I am a specialist right here in the greater Albuquerque area. And I really want to encourage all of you out there to find an expert, to find a specialist in your market for the area that you are specifically interested in. Don't rely on somebody that's really specialized out in Texas to tell you information about the markets in North Carolina. That doesn't make any sense. And so that's why I'm bringing you this information today, and I think it's really of great value for you. You might be asking, why? Why is this important to me? Well, for most of us, buying a home is the single biggest investment, single biggest purchase we will make our entire lives. Doesn't it make sense to rely on the help of an expert in that field, in that profession, and not just to go in blindly? I think so. And so that's why I'm bringing this market information. So who does it impact? Anybody that's considering buying or selling a home in the greater Albuquerque area anytime in the next couple of months, okay? So I've got a little bit of a background in data analysis. I am by no means a mathematician or a statistician, okay? But I do know the value in data and using statistics. And I kind of want to give you guys a little sort of an inside trade secret. And many of you are probably already familiar with this, but anyone who is in sales probably has a very good grasp of this concept. And I think if you've never heard of it before, after I share it, you're going to be like, that makes so much sense. And here it is. We buy things based on how we think or perceive it's going to make us feel. And we justify it with the data. Let that sink in for a second. We buy things based off of emotion, and we justify it by the data, by logic, okay? So that's why the data piece is so important. So if you're considering buying or selling a home in the greater Albuquerque area, I am a licensed real estate agent here in New Mexico. I would love to help you. Let's get into this. So recently, I was helping some clients out. They're getting ready to move out of state, and they were really interested to see what their home is worth. And I wanted to help them. And you know, one thing that's available to all of us out there is products on some of these big name companies like Zillow called the Zestimate. And how Zillow builds this program is basically, it's designed to kind of function and operate across the entire country and not really specialize to any one market, right? And so it's pulling data across the entire country. And as I mentioned earlier, each individual market is totally different. And there can be vast differences in price ranges and how much things are appreciating and what this market actually looks like versus what that market looks like. So long story short, I did a comparative market analysis for them. And that's where I took my expertise and my specialist skill set to evaluate their home and compare it on the market based off of past data. So homes that had sold in the last 3 to 6 months, and then also current data, but homes that had not sold yet. So homes that are on the market, so we'd get an idea of where it would sit in the market, what would it be competing against. So I took these two CMAs, one based on past data and one based on what we're seeing right now. I averaged those two and I came out with my comparative market analysis, my CMA. And my clients were pretty blown away, and I was actually pretty surprised also that my CMA from a real estate agent here, a specialist here in this area, was $100,000 difference from the Zillow's estimate. And it was $100,000 more that I evaluated the property as versus what Zillow was saying. And I'm not knocking Zillow in any way. I used to be a Zillow Premier agent, and they've got a lot of great things that they do. Not talking bad about them at all. However, their Zestimate program is not an expert, is not a specialist in this market. I am. Now just think about it. If you were getting ready to sell your home and you pull up the Zestimate and you're thinking, oh, my home's worth this, and you just go with that, you could have lost out on $100,000. Now, on the price range of this home, that ended up being about a little over 20% off. That's a 20% margin of error. That's not very good. I wouldn't be happy with that. If I hired an agent and they came in with a 20% margin of error, I don't know. I think I might be looking for another agent. So long story short, this is why I'm trying to convey to you how important it is to make sure that you get an expert that you can trust right there in your market. So as I briefly mentioned before, I do have a little bit of a background in data analysis. And what I learned in my experience in doing data analysis and basically business consulting is that all of these skill sets I picked up with analyzing data has helped me immensely as a real estate agent and helps me to serve my clients really, really well in a lot of ways. And so the way I approach it is that, first of all, we gotta have data, and the data needs to be good in order to start forming and evaluating and creating statistics. Most of us are pretty familiar with statistics. And one of the key concepts I use in statistics is recognizing patterns. An example would be, if we look at historical data, and this really holds true across the entire country year after year for, really about the past 5 or 6 years, possibly COVID pandemic with an exception as being an outlier, we see that statistically, homes sell for the lowest amount in January. And really that's no big surprise. A lot of the country experiences a lot of, not the best weather in January. And so there's just not as many people in the market. There's not as much demand and there's not as much supply. And if you understand a little bit about economics, then you know how supply and demand works. And so when we take a look at that pattern, we understand that as a buyer, it can be highly advantageous to try to buy a home in January because your dollar is going to go further than it goes all year long. However, conversely, there are not going to be as many homes on the market to look at, so you just can't be as picky. So this is just a data point that helps us to kind of make decisions and also plan for the future, and kind of leads me into the next part that I'm getting into is by recognizing that pattern, we can create predictions. So based on the historical data, the historical evidence, it's very likely that once again, as we roll into January this next year, we're going to see home prices do a little dip, and then they'll start working their way back up through the summer. Okay, so that's a pattern that helps us to create a prediction for a probable outcome. And this is where I really leverage data to best serve my clients. So I look at the data and I see, okay, what are the patterns? How can I create predictions? And how can I give a probable outcome to present potential courses of action to my clients so that they can make a really well-informed decision. So once again, I act as the consultant. I never tell my clients what to do. I try to give them options in a way where they can evaluate it for themselves to make the best decision for themselves in their situation. And that's how I use data. So now, as we start jumping into this market update, thanks for staying with me. I do want to cover a couple of basic definitions. I don't mean to talk down to anybody, and I don't want to assume that all of you know these things because sometimes they're a little tricky, and I'll be the first to admit, public math is not my forte, is not my specialty, but there's a couple things that I do want to define, and probably won't cover this again in future editions of the monthly market update. The first is central tendency. So this is a pretty basic concept in statistics, and it really helps us in understanding what are we trying to get out of the data, out of the information. So let me put it into context. So when we're looking at the data from our MLS, for example, and we're looking at all the data from last month on how many homes sold, what were the price ranges, and we collect all that data, what we kind of want to get at in central tendency is where is the majority? Where does the biggest group kind of reside and sit in the middle? And there's two main methods that I like to use and a lot of people would use for defining that central tendency. And the first one is median. Okay, so once again, quick review. Median is basically if we had all of the values all in a line and we picked whatever was exactly in the middle. So there's 5 on this side, 5 on this side. That's the median. So median is really effective and useful when we have a smaller database or group of numbers, group of values to look at. And then the other method that I like to use for kind of understanding central tendency is the mean. Mean is also the exact same thing as saying average. So once again, that's taking all the numbers and calculating what is actually the average. So average is really useful when we have a very large database, like our market here. So most of the time, I am more comfortable using the average or mean to kind of define central tendency versus the median. Now the one hang up that we have with using the average or the mean is that when we have outliers that sit way outside of the central tendency or the bell curve, they can skew the data a little bit. So it's just a couple things to be aware of, just a little housekeeping, a few things I wanted to cover about data and statistics as we start really digging into this. Okay, so as I already mentioned, it's hot here, about 97 degrees out today here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and our housing market is also heating up. So this data comes from the Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors, or GAR, as we call it, which I am a member of. And this is data from July of 2024, and what they're doing is they're taking a snapshot of here's all of our data from July of this year and comparing it to July of last year of 2023. So these next set of numbers that I'm going to talk about is a comparison of July right now versus July last year. So here's what's exciting. So July of this year, we are up 9% compared to last year in new listings. So that's 1,086 new listings. That's a lot of new listings. That's a good thing for the housing market. That's an increase in inventory, which is healthy. That's a good thing. Pending sales are up 9.3%. So the market is also moving, which is also a very good thing. Closed sales are up 9.7% from last year. Once again, a really good thing. The market is moving. And then the next thing is the average price. So once again, we defined average. So this can get a little skewed with some of those outliers, but the average price for a home here in the greater Albuquerque area is up 6% from last year. So a year over year, 6% increase in the overall home value on average. So the average price of a home here in Albuquerque, New Mexico for July was $434,000. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then another increase we have is that the inventory of homes for sale is up 23.7%. Now that's a really big jump. And that's a really good thing for our market. That's really good if you are a buyer because you've got a whole lot more options. And then this one, I'm not overly concerned about it. The average days on market is up 38% from last year. So last year in July, homes were moving a lot faster. And for July, we averaged 29 days on market. For me, anything right around 30 days is a really healthy number. And if you think about it, if you're a seller, basically 1 month to get your home under contract, and then most closings are only about 30 days. So really you're getting your home sold in about 2 months from the very first day you put it on market. That's not bad at all. And from the buying end, it's also good because homes aren't moving so fast that it's creating this crazy hectic feeding frenzy where we just gotta be like putting offers out there that are just like out of control, going so over the top, just trying to win the bid because the houses are moving so fast. So thankfully that is not the situation. That can be a really difficult environment to actually buy a home in and get it under contract. So overall, all of these numbers are really, really good and show positive increases in the overall market stability and just kind of where we're at right now. So super excited about that. Okay, so there's just a couple more pieces that I do want to cover. Once again, these numbers are still from GAR, the Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors. And so we talked about the difference in the average and the median. And here's where you're really going to see how the numbers really change a lot and there's a big impact. So the average sales price for a home in July of this year was $434,000. The median sales price, so the number that really fell in the middle between all of those values, was $370,000. So once again, that's roughly a $64,000 difference. So now you can see where when people ask the question, well, what's the average cost of a home in this city? Okay, it's this. You should also ask, what is the median cost of a home in this city? Because any market might have a couple of outliers, a couple of really high-end properties that are just millions of dollars that are skewing the numbers for where the majority really sits. And so that's why I really like to always look at both the median and the average when I'm talking about prices here in the greater Albuquerque area and when I'm trying to give a client kind of an idea of what is the majority? Where is the majority going to fall? Where is the central tendency of the data? And really, what is the average and median price of a home here? Okay, so here's the next piece of data that I want to cover. And this is one of my favorites because this one helps me to provide really good information, especially when I have a buyer, of how to craft and create a really competitive offer that is really difficult for a seller to say no to. And that is, what is the percentage of list to sold price? And what that means is if a home is listed at $350,000, how many of those homes are selling basically at exactly what the list price is or over, versus how many of those homes are going under contract and selling for less than the list price. And so this is a trend that I keep really close tabs on, because it drastically impacts how I advise my clients in pursuing a home and putting together a really good offer. And so for the month of July, here in the greater Albuquerque area, the list to sold price was 99.2%. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that out of 100 people, less than one got a home under contract and sold for less than the list price. So what that means is if you're a buyer and the home has only been on the market, 30 days or less, because we're still in that average day on market, you need to come in with that expectation of, we need to offer at least asking price, and in order to make it really competitive, we need to figure out some other ways to make our offer stand out from other offers. And I advise my clients, if you are really wanting a good deal, and in your head you have this idea that a good deal means I'm paying less than the list price, statistically, you're gonna have a really hard time actually getting under contract and buying that home. Those are just the numbers. We all want a good deal, but the reality is a good deal is finding and buying the home that you want with terms that are acceptable. And the market is telling us that acceptable terms are at asking price right now, because this is the kind of market we're in. This also indicates that, this is another one of the big questions I get. Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Well, this data piece indicates that we are more in a seller's market. However, from my own personal experience, I'm still finding great success in getting quite a few buyer concessions. So things like added items that originally were not going to convey with the home, like maybe a washer dryer, maybe a really nice refrigerator, maybe there's a sauna, maybe there's a really nice big gun safe, whatever it is, added features that could convey with the home, but originally listed with the MLS, they weren't intended to convey with the home. So I've been finding success in being able to negotiate for added features to convey, as well as we're still getting closing cost assistance for our clients, which is huge. Additionally, I've still had success in getting home warranties, like 1-year home warranties. So while those are just my specific data sets and they're much smaller, when people ask me, is it a seller's market or is it a buyer's market? My experience and how I'm able to guide my clients and the success that my clients are having is indicating that it's more of a balanced market, okay? While we're still paying at asking price or over, we're able to negotiate to still get many of the things that my buyers want. So that indicates to me that it's more of a balanced market. If we weren't able to get anything we wanted in negotiations, if we couldn't get closing costs, if we couldn't get any of those added features, maybe the buyer just really wants the washer and dryer to stay and the sellers are just like, nope, we're taking the washer dryer. If we weren't able to get, home warranties, if they were just like, nope, then I would say it is a 100% seller's market. But that's the success that I'm having personally for my clients. And so I would say we're a little bit closer to a balanced market, but the big data set still says it's a seller's market. Okay, a couple of the last pieces that I want to cover with you guys before we wrap up. These pieces of data come from RPR, and one of those specific things is that for the month of July, we had 934 active properties, okay? According to RPR, they were showing that there was an average of 32 days on the market. And here's a couple of interesting things. The median price per square foot was $211. And the total volume, so big dollar amount, of homes that were sold in the month of July was $456.2 million worth of properties sold here in the greater Albuquerque area. So still a lot of revenue moving through, which is a really good thing. And then the one other data point that I think is kind of cool is that for the month of July, the median living area square footage was 2,001 square feet, which is, you know, it's a good size home for a lot of people. Not the right fit for everyone, but not too small. All right, so we're getting close to wrapping up this monthly market update. One other thing I gotta talk about, because it's just like, I get kind of frustrated about it sometimes, honestly. I'm still encountering so many people that are waiting to buy, and they're waiting on interest rates to come down. And I wish there was just a really easy way to just kind of open their eyes to the cost of waiting, and to help that light bulb to go off in their head to understand that what is likely to happen in the market is, as interest rates do start coming down, because many of the economists, many of the experts are predicting that they are going to start coming down, but they'll probably come down very slowly and very gradually. But if and when interest rates do start coming down, we are likely to see a whole lot of people that have been on the fence and waiting for interest rates to come down to all basically jump in the pool, to all now start competing for buying a home. Now, what is that likely to do? Well, if you're familiar with the basic concepts of supply and demand, if and when interest rates come down, we're likely to see demand, all those buyers that enter the market, really increase. Now, what is that going to do? If supply does not increase at the same rate, we are likely to see the prices of homes go up. Okay, so here is what I think is going to happen, and here's what a lot of experts would also predict and suggest is going to happen. And if you have a really good financial advisor or mortgage broker, they're probably going to say a very similar thing. The cost of waiting is likely to far outweigh any potential savings that you would get with interest rates coming down. So once again, just to cap everything off, the market is doing great here. If you have the means and ability to buy, you absolutely should buy. Do not wait. Give me a call now. Let's hop on a Zoom. Let's FaceTime. I'm ready to help you. I'm ready to answer your questions. Let's go. This is a fantastic time to get into the market.